Good to have you with us. I'm An Jang-hyun for Heart to Heart. There are so many major and minor religions in the world that it's close to impossible to account for every one of them. Naturally, some have their roots in Korea, and one of them is 증산도. Well, that religion is about to be introduced to the Western world by this man. Please welcome the editor of the 증산도 International Department, Mr. Jeff Krause. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Tell us about the outfit you're wearing, first of all. It's quite unusual.
This is a dobok, and 증산도 practitioners wear this when we're practicing meditation or the tail mantra exercise before we do meditation. So it's not something that we wear every day, but just when we're practicing.
Religion, I see. Now, you're going to have to tell us first what 증산도 is all about, because it is a religion that is unfamiliar to many people.
Certainly. 증산도 is based on the teachings of a man named Kang Jun-san. And Kang Jun-san, the concept before he was born as a human being, he told us during his lifetime that he had been with a Jesuit priest in the 16th century named Matteo Ricci, who is in the spirit world. He is the highest spirit next to 상제님. So 상제님 is Kang Jun-san's name. He took this name after he reached enlightenment, and this is his name that practitioners call him by, Kang Jun-san 상제님, or 상제님 for short. So 상제님, before he came as a human being, he was in the cathedral in St. Peter's Basilica as a spiritual being with Matteo Ricci, this Jesuit priest, as also a spirit. And they watched over world affairs in the West for about 30 or 40 years before they came to Korea. And then in the 1840s, Kang Jun-san came as a spirit into the Maitreya statue in Kumsan Temple, which is down in Cholla Province. And as a spirit, he watched Korean affairs in the East for another 30 years. And then in 1871, he was born as a human being. And so as a young man, he showed great promise, and many called him a genius, and he had incredible strength, and he was just a very unique human being. And so as a young man, he grew up with his parents, and he, as a youth, he worked in the fields and farmed, and this would be the early 1880s, 1890s. And at that time in Korea, the Donghak Revolution then came, the farmers, the peasants' revolution. So watching the events of that Donghak Revolution, he saw the kind of the fate that the world was headed in. And watching this, he saw this direction, and he realized that the world could not be saved by any other means. So in seeing that, he watched the peasants fail in 1894 and 1897, I believe. He watched the peasants fail in the revolution when they tried to bring comfort to the people of Cholla, or of all of Korea. And he decided to go into meditation. So now in 1901, he was meditating, and he reached a level of enlightenment not only into heaven, to the nature of heaven, and not only into earth, in understanding the earth and the principles of earth, but also into humanity, which was until now unattained. So reaching this enlightenment, he then decided to perform a work of renewal, and this is called 천지 공사, or it means 천지 means heaven and earth, and 공사 means public affairs or work of renewing. So in 증산도, we call it the work of renewal. And for 9 years, from 1901 to 1909, he did this work of renewal. So in this work of renewal, he kind of set straight this kind of twisted path that Earth and humanity and as a human race we were on, and set it back to a true course that we could continue on living. And so doing that, he then reascended back to heaven in 1909, or he died and he reascended back to heaven. There was people there that had also meditated and their spiritual eye was open, and they witnessed actually him raising back to heaven on a throne with many, many spirits there accompanying him. And so then 2 years later, he passed on his enlightenment to a woman in 1911. And this woman, her name was Gopalye. She was also from Sunchang, I believe. She was born in Sunchang and was raised there. And then in 1911, she was meditating, and they had worked together in the work of renewal for probably 3 years before that. And then she reached enlightenment. And she carried on his work, kind of planting he had planted the seeds, and now she was raising the organization into a full organization. So we call that the second movement of 증산도. And she went through another 10 years of 전지공사, this work of renewing heaven and earth as well. So then in 1935, she ascended back to heaven, and my teacher now, or teacher of all 증산도, a man named An Un-san, he has taken over running the organization. And it's him and his son, An Kyung-jun Sabunim. So we call them Tae Sabunim and Sabunim. Those are our main teachers. They continued on with the organization until now. And so
it's a religion that's been around for just over 100
years?
Yes,
just over 100.
And how many followers are there in and outside of Korea?
Right now, around the world, we're still fairly small, and there's 300,000 practitioners. And we have over 200 dojangs in Korea, and then there's a couple of dozen overseas.
도장 meaning?
Dojang is a Tao center, a place where we practice.
I see. And how long have you been a follower?
I've been practicing since 1998, and I had learned about it in 1996 with a teacher that, a very close friend and good teacher of mine, and I was studying Oriental medicine and with him, and he had told me some about the principles of this, and so I started practicing. And I decided in 1998 that this was something that I wanted to be part of.
What about the religion made you, attracted you?
I was amazed to find when when I first came to Asia, I was very interested in learning something about, I had these romantic images of Asia, of course, as everyone does. That I wanted to learn something more about the body and something more about the mind than the West, that I had learned in the West or what the West was teaching me. And I wanted to come to the root of those teachings. And I didn't know what it was, whether it was going to be, I didn't want the violence of Kung Fu or these kind of martial arts, but I didn't want the aggressiveness of those martial arts, but I wanted to learn more about the mind and the body. And if I got in good shape and toned the body at the same time, that was great. So I was looking for this exercise, and I was thinking Tai Chi was going to be, this slow-moving Tai Chi was going to be my answer for this. And in 1996 in Korea, there was no Tai Chi. There was Taekwondo. I asked everybody I could find, where can I find Tai Chi? Don't know, only Taekwondo. And I'm sure Taekwondo teaches about the mind as well, but I was more interested in Tai Chi at that time. So I was about to move to Taiwan, because I figured that would be the place that I was going to find an original teacher for Tai Chi. And just then, a friend introduced me to a man named Dr. Shin Min Shik, who has a clinic in Gangnam here. An Oriental medical clinic, and we started meeting and talking, and I told him I was interested in this exercise, and he said he didn't teach it directly, but he did have people that did teach it, and we got to talking, and I was more and more interested in Oriental medicine and that when we were talking. And a very interesting thing happened, I think the third time we met. He told me about this principle that of the 4 seasons, which was something that I believed in on my own back in Canada when I was in high school, which was kind of paganism or what they call Wicca. I was practicing Wiccan at home, and in that practice there was the 4 seasons. We had festivals for the spring equinox, summer equinox, autumn and winter, and as well there was every month, and the new moon and the full moon we would have these rituals. So he told me about that same practice in old Korea, that they would have these festivals and practice, and that the 4 seasons was a way to look at the secular nature of time. And that was really interesting to me. That really caught me. And then I realized that these teachings in the West, these ancient teachings in the West before modern day religions had come forth, this old paganism religion of the West was also in the East. And so I realized that there was no, the East is the East and the West and the West, and the twain shall never meet, as Rudyard Kipling said, that it wasn't true, that we all come from the same root teachings. And I think in Korea that's Shingyo, or the teachings of spirits. So that was a very attractive point for me. That was a very, very attractive point for me. And I realized my paganism in the West is the same as this 증산도 practice in the East. And so I began to learn this exercise, and the exercise was very interesting. And it was very funny then that my teacher said, well, if you want to continue with the exercise, you have to sit down and meditate. Well, I wasn't quite prepared to do meditation then. I said, well, why do I have to meditate? I want to learn the body. He said, well, to learn the body, you have to learn the mind. And to learn the mind, you have to learn the spirit. And so now we say this mind, body, spirit, which is really popular today. So then for me to sit down and practice this meditation, he said, well, in 증산도 we do mantra meditation. So using sound is a better way to calm the mind and to release these thoughts and feelings and old memories that we may have, and to get past that and then to start developing. So that's how I came in.
Well, let's find out a little bit more about how 증산도 is practiced by followers. We have this video clip. Take a look.
This is a recent meditation retreat we held for Westerners. I believe it was last November. And so we had a number of practitioners come down from all over the country, Korean practitioners that practice in English, that speak English, and we had invited people from all over the country to come down to Daejeon and practice. This is a aura photo capture here. So we're practicing, after doing the Tail mantra, we took a before and after photo, and you can see how this person might have a small blockage there in their energy where it was red, and you could see where the green is there, that they've opened more, their aura has changed, and that's the energy that's coming from the mantra. And here we are here in a local park very early in the morning, about 6:30 in the morning. This is the tail mantra exercise. Oh, this is just warm-up. I'm sorry. Doing a little bit of warming up, stretching before they practice the exercise. This is the first movement, hum, which is the same as the mantra. It follows the same characters.
That's the way of training your body then.
Right. So that's what I first learned, and then started practicing.
What is the ultimate goal of 증산도? Is it enlightenment?
Yes, very much so. Enlightenment for all people. There is a concept in 증산도 called 위통, which means to heal and to unite. And 증산도's purpose is not, a violent one by any stretch of the means. We would like very much to heal one another. And it's when everyone else is doing well that then we will do well. This person, 상제님, 강중산, the concept Sangje, I should explain. Sangje means highest emperor. So Sangjenim said, we only have to take what remains. When others do well, we only have to take what remains, and then we too will succeed. And this kind of brings us to a few of the concepts of 증산도's main teachings.
Mm-hmm. Now your work involves letting more foreigners know about 증산도,
Mm-hmm.
because you are translating 증산도 books, I believe.
Yes.
What do you call them, books?
The book is called the Dojan,
Uh-huh.
which is the sacred book of Tao. Do meaning Tao.
Mm-hmm.
In 증산도, the Jung, I should explain the title too. Jung means shiru, which is a rice cake steamer.
Mm-hmm.
And the rice cake steamer was the mountain that Gangjung-san Sangjenim was born under. He was born under a mountain called Shiru-san, the Shiru mountain in Chola province. So he took the energy of that mountain and applied it to his work. And so there was Jung and San meaning mountain, Jung-san, Shiru-san, and then Do meaning the Tao of. So 증산도, I'd like to say it's not a religion per se, but a Tao, which means a way of life, and it incorporates all religions of the world into this Tao and provides a pathway, a way of practicing. So the book that we're translating is called the Sacred Book of Tao, the Dojan, which it means the compilation of Tao teachings, Dojan. Okay, and in this book we have witnesses, which is I found just incredible. There was witnesses whose parents or grandparents were alive at the time Gangjung-san and Gopalye Temonim were alive, and these people gave these teachings. They passed on the teachings that their parents had told them about. So it's basically second or third hand information from when it happened just 100 years ago. And my teacher, Sabonim, Te Sabonim and Sabonim, they compiled all of these teachings for many, many years. Almost 30 years of work went into making this book. They compiled the teachings, gathered different sources of information, cross-checked between different people who were giving testimonies, and cross-checked dates and times and what happened at those dates and times by who and what happened, and so on. And this was all compiled into one book. There was other books written before, a number of books. I think the Dojan is compiled of 6 other books that were written by practitioners as well. So that, and then these facts that were in the book were checked again by these people who are giving testimony. So that book has come together in 1992. That book finally came together, and that was the original Korean Dojan. And so the work didn't stop there. Then we went into translation. Now, I wasn't there then, but now there's 100 translators, and we're working on 7 languages at the moment: English, French, German, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Japanese. Yes, okay.
You say it's not a religion, but obviously you have a founder who is considered above human,
Yes.
who's considered a spirit. So how is that not a religion?
The way that it incorporates Tao, if it was Tao, it would be called Jungsan Kyo, the teachings of Jungsan. And we've called it Jungsan Do because it is more, it's a way of life not just for humans, but for the spirit world as well. When Gangjung-san Sangjenim did this Chanji Gongsa, this work of renewal, he not only incorporated the humans doing this work, but also the spirits at the same time. And there's passages in the Dojan where he calls a spirit from the forest, and a stick appears, and he speaks to the stick harshly, and then a human being appears, which was a spirit. And they have these conversations, and these conversations are recorded. So it goes beyond, I think, the boundaries of religion in saying that it's a pathway for us humans to understand. It could very much look like religion, but it also incorporates the whole universe into straightening the path of this universe. So,
in the video clip that we just saw, there were quite a few foreigners there as well. And those foreigners, I guess, have been introduced to 증산도 while they were in Korea?
Those weren't all practitioners. There were some practitioners. Most of them were people we just introduced for the retreat.
I see.
So they just came down with some foreign practitioners and some Korean practitioners, and we all practiced together to learn the tail mantra, to practice some exercise. That was a 2-day retreat. So.
What was the response like from the participants?
I think a lot of people are confused and find it difficult to understand the philosophy. And I must admit, when I first started, it was difficult as well. I wanted to learn exercise. Why do I have to learn this philosophy? But just as my teacher originally said, too, it's the mind, the body, the mind, and the spirit. And you cannot just learn the body without learning the mind. And without learning the mind, you cannot just learn the mind and not learn the spirit. So a lot of people find it difficult in this day and age to be spiritual anymore. They don't, oh, well, you know, where does this have a place? Where does God have a place in my life? You know, I don't need that. I have to make money and work and live this life. And although many people do find a place for God in their life. So I found, too, as I was going along, I learned the mind, or the body first. I learned to sit for long periods of time, which wasn't actually that hard. I learned to sit for longer and longer periods of time. I learned to do the exercise. And then I found, well, I need some more direction. And I felt that missing in my life, very much so before when I was in Canada. That this direction, this purpose was there, but I don't want to be critical of people working in the, a 9-to-5 lifestyle or something like that. I work a 9-to-5 lifestyle as well, but this work really gave me some purpose and sense of meaning, and I really enjoy that. Really enjoy
the translation.
The translation, and I also do design and a million other jobs there as well.
Because I mean, it's one thing being a believer, being a follower, but it's another thing being really involved in doing what you're doing for the.
It's been a difficult path, and I was just studying up until last year, and then I've started working full time. I used to teach at dojangs. I used to teach Tai Chi and meditation here in Seoul. In Gwanghwamun, we have a dojang, and in Gangnam, those were the two main dojangs that were working with Westerners. And I used to teach there and practice and study myself. And then I was offered a position in Daejeon, working at the main culture and education center in Daejeon, the 증산도 Culture and Education Center. And yeah, it's been quite rewarding. It's tough work. It's really tough work. But, it's very rewarding.
So will you continue to do this kind of work, whereby you're introducing 증산도 to more and more people outside of Korea?
I think for now, because the teachings in English are just being published in the dojan has just come out. I've just finished editing a book, a small book called The Jade Flute, which will be out in bookstores very soon. And
related to 증산도 as
yes,
well?
it's a compilation of passages from the dojang about meditation, about the body, and about the mind and the spirit. So we've compiled some of the teachings there, and we've put all the mantras that 증산도 practitioners use. So we've put that all together, and then some teachings from Taesabunim and Sabunim, our master, the Supreme Tao Master and Grand Master of 증산도. We've compiled that into a small book, and then as well, if you get, there's just the book, and then there's a book and CD case, a CD, which has the mantras recorded on it as well, so you can practice along at home if you want to practice.
I see.
So we've put that together, and I think now we're going forward with a lot more materials and a lot more promotion in foreign languages. So I hope to be part of that, but I also very much want to continue back in Canada.
I see.
Because these are teachings that I really, truly believe the entire world has a right to hear and should hear. And I'm sure not everyone is going to agree with it. I mean, some of the things that 증산도 proposes are quite shocking. And But I think that's good every once in a while.
Well, I
So
do
wanted-
hope you get that opportunity to do what you're planning to do.
Great.
Thank you very much for coming on the program and telling us about 증산도.
Oh, it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, you don't necessarily have to be a believer. I think what's more important is that we keep an open mind toward other people's ideas, other people's faith as well. That is it for this edition of Heart to Heart. I'll be back with more next time. See you again then.